Hi, welcome to Thoughtful Planning. I'm Honey, and usually we have Santiago with us, but he is helping our son today. So you have me as your host today. So before we begin, this conversation is for educational purposes only. We are not legal or financial professionals, and we encourage you to consult with a licensed expert for advice specific to your situation. All right, so today we're talking about green and natural burials, an option that's growing in popularity for its environmental benefits and simplicity. And to guide us through this topic, we're joined by Sunny Markham, president of Countryside Memorial Park in Livonia, Texas. Sunny, thank you so much for being here today.
Honey, thank you so much for having me. I'm just delighted to be here. And I really appreciate your covering this topic for everybody that wants to know, because people think, isn't that legal?
Yeah, I know. I had no idea. Yes, for sure.
I know. It absolutely is.
So it's a pleasure to have you with us. Let's start with an essential question for the audience. What is a natural or green burial, and how does it differ from a conventional burial? So before we dive into this interview, I want to set the stage with some numbers from the Countryside Memorial's website that might surprise you. So in the United States, every year, we bury over 800,000 gallons of embalming fluid, enough to fill 8 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Mm-hmm. This fluid contains formaldehyde, a known carcinogen, more steel than was used to build the Golden Gate Bridge, enough reinforced concrete to build a 2-lane highway from New York to Detroit. Mm-hmm. Plus, cemeteries often use pesticides and fertilizers to maintain their lawns, adding to environmental pollution. And while many people choose a cremation for cost reasons, it's actually not as eco-friendly as you might think. Each cremation uses the energy equivalent of driving 4,800 miles. That's like a road trip from California to Maine. In the United States alone, the energy used for cremation in 1 year could take you to the moon and back 85 times. Wow. Not to mention, cremation releases mercury into the air, which eventually settles into our ground. So, what's the alternative? That's where green and natural burials come in. They eliminate embalming chemicals, avoid concrete vaults, and use biodegradable materials that allow the body to return to the earth naturally, giving back to the land rather than polluting it. So, Sunny, that was a lot of amazing information on your website. I couldn't believe all of that when I read it. So, can you explain what green and natural burials are? And then are there any differences between the two?
Yes, and yes. Yeah, you covered some pretty serious stuff. And it almost seems mythical that we have that much embalming fluid that goes right into the earth that does nothing but hurt the environment. Because when you bury someone in a hardwood casket and that person has been embalmed and that person and the casket have been encased in a concrete vault, what you have is a toxic soup. The person dissolves, but all of that toxicity is right there in this cauldron, a concrete cauldron of, the vault that the cemetery wants, because they want their graves to all be beautiful lawns, At a natural burial cemetery, I've got some gophers. I got gophers. I'm not going to poison them. Mm-hmm. I've got wild grass. I'm not going to poison it because a person goes into the ground and they return to earth. and that's their final resting place. And their bodies actually decompose and feed the trees. And the trees grow and the butterflies fly and the wildflowers bloom. We're in winter right now, kind of still. And when the wildflowers come out, man, you are wading in wildflowers with bees and I've got a lot of ducks that are hanging out at the cemetery right now.
Wow.
So yeah, natural burial is all about returning to earth as your final resting place. Because we came from the earth, right? And we need to return to the earth. And of course, our spirits go where they go, but our bodies, they gotta go somewhere. When a death occurs in a hospital, everybody's like, they're trying to keep the person alive. Like grandma, everybody's praying she's gonna make it. She's gonna make it. And, they call the families and everybody's praying. The churches are praying and grandma dies. And nobody's thinking about, okay, what do we do when grandma dies? Most people are just thinking, because we're not in our culture, a death positive culture. We are like a death negative culture. So when you got a body and the hospital staff looks at the family and says, well, she's gone. And then the family does their grieving and right there. And then suddenly the hospital staff looks at the family and they say, well, what would you like us to do now? The family hadn't even thought of it. So the first thing they do is they call any funeral home. I mean, they just start calling funeral homes because they haven't thought of it yet. So this is really important that we're doing right now because we are informing people of something they've never even considered before. So your question was, what's a natural burial or what's a green burial?
Right.
Green burial is a term that we've all heard the term greenwashing, right? And greenwashing isn't really green. It sounds green. Oh yeah, we're going to bury them but we're going to put them in a concrete vault just because that's what the cemetery wants. And when all the other people there at the cemetery, they've all got they're all embalmed and they're all in these hardwood caskets. And so greenwashing is not really green. And a lot of conventional funeral homes and conventional cemeteries, they do the greenwashing because they really want to please their clients because green burial is now a buzzword. They don't want to lose those clients. Now, I would never disparage funeral homes. I mean, they're amazing that the human beings that serve others at the time of death, at the time of need, and those people are highly trained. But they want to give the families what the families are asking for. The families might say, do you want a natural burial? The families might say, we heard about natural burial or green burial. Can y'all do them? And they will have that on their general price list. It's called a GPL. They might have green burial on there. And then when it comes right down to it, they don't really know how to do green burial. But if they do accept, and if the family says, yeah, we're going to go with y'all because that's on your GPL, then I can work with any funeral home and I can guide them through it. And because they're professionals, but it's a different ballgame for when we do a natural burial or a natural green burial. We work with Compassion Funeral Home, as you interviewed Hinaro so wonderfully the other day. I'm like, wow. So Hinaro and I have done 55 natural burials. Wow. And each one of them has been completely different because each burial is family directed. I'm not a funeral director. I'm not licensed in it, but I'm a heart-centered person and I can guide a family into creating the kind of thinned off and final goodbye that they really know their loved one. And it's like, yeah, you can have mariachi. Oh yeah. You guys want to, y'all want to dance? Yes. Y'all want to sing? Yes. And a lot of funerals at our cemetery, they're very floral centric, but it's not flowers that somebody calls up and orders to be sent to the burial site. It's like the families bring the flowers and they decorate and they adorn. They decorate the grave before the person is laid, or they adorn after the person has been brought down. There's an entire families can get as involved with the burial as they want to, and a lot of people, they want to. Genaro can lead them to carry their loved one from his mortuary coach, and they carry them and they put them on top of the pyre. And I say pyre, it just all depends on what the family wants. But yeah, the family can carry them and the family can lower them. The family can offer them flowers and the family can just be there fully. And nobody's standing over them saying, okay, this happens next, this happens next. No, we just guide them from the very beginning.
Yeah. Well, I know that Santiago and I have both been to countryside, actually. So our nephew, his grandmother passed away sometime last year, and we went there to support our nephew. And both Santiago and I were just very surprised. We were actually in amazement because we've never seen anything like that before. And she was beautifully shrouded. And when we got there, she was already on a bed, and so she was up above the ground still on a bed. And then she had some flowers on her. The family had already put some flowers out, and they had extra flowers and buckets for us to do what we want with those flowers. And I remember then his grandmother was lowered, and then afterwards they were allowing the family to put the dirt inside. And so that's really what I remember from that. And so when I think I want to get a clarification on natural versus green. So that, because she was not in a wicker basket, she was shrouded. Is that what you would call natural?
Yeah.
Okay. And then is green when the person is in a wicker basket, or?
Natural and green burial are essentially the same. Well, they are one and the same.
Okay.
Except for when a conventional funeral home says, yeah, we can do that, but it's not exactly what I would consider green or natural. But it doesn't mean that they're not pleasing their families. But not a lot of cemeteries will allow natural or green burial. I mean, because they want that lawn, they want that long look, and they want the monument. We don't allow monuments anymore. We have a few of them. We don't allow them anymore, because they're not natural. And we have a mower that comes around, and he's got to go around them. But we do have natural stone.
Okay.
So they are bespoke stones, and each stone is custom carved for them.
Wow.
And I'm the artisan.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think you have those on your website, right?
Yes,
and
I do.
That's what I read, that you like they're original.
Yeah.
Like it's
families are totally involved in it.
Yeah, those are very pretty. So for those listeners, if you're listening right now, I'll be sure to include the link to Countryside Memorial so you can actually go and see what we're talking about.
Or they can come to the cemetery on any time. If they want me to give them a tour, I would love to do that. But if they just want to come and hang out, certainly they can do that. It's country, and it's like a visit in the country.
Mm-hmm. I know, it is very pretty.
Yeah.
So okay, I'm clear now on that. I was a little confused when I was Googling green and natural, and so now I understand. So like at a typical funeral home, just for clear, I just want to make sure we're clear. Most funeral homes really don't offer natural. They will say some will do green, but really it's not a true green because they already have those concrete vaults in the ground, most likely. And so then that already kind of negates the whole natural. And then of course, I don't really know the rest of the procedures at the different funeral homes.
Or they might put grandma in her suit. And that suit might have zippers, it might have buttons, and it's like, okay, that's not green because when grandma goes back to Earth, the only thing you're going to see are those stupid zippers and buttons. That's all that's,
Yeah.
Who wants to see that? I mean, grandma needs to just return to Earth. It's all about ashes to ashes, dust to dust. It's so simple. Those are like natural things, but the conventional burial started in during the Civil War times, as you know, and when the warriors were all going to be sent home, their bodies were to be sent home, but so then they started filling them up with arsenic to preserve the bodies to get them home. So that's when it really, really started. And then when Lincoln was assassinated, of course, he had to go on a funeral train all the way back to where he lived. So 3 morticians went with him, and they just kept him embalmed the whole time. And then it got to be a thing. People are going, I want that. I want that. So that's how it started happening. And the funeral, the morticians, they were like, okay, this is a whole industry for us. But it was toxic.
Right.
But it was an industry suddenly.
Right. Well, I remember when I was talking, actually, when we were talking with Inato about home funerals, I remember asking him about, if we were on vacation, right? And if I were to pass on, in a different state, then could I still have that natural burial? And he had said, it gets a little tricky, right? Because the different states have different rules. And sometimes when you're traveling, like they might require you to go ahead and be embalmed then. And so I was like, well, I wonder, if I were to say could they put some dry ice or put me in is there a way for me to move from, this state to this state?
Yeah.
In a refrigerated container of some sort. And then I could have natural burial. But
yes, that's what and there is a container like that. And Hinato can explain more about it. He told me about that once. But say if you die in France, you would, I know. I mean, Hinato can help get you back if you work with him with the travel insurance that he has. People can travel anywhere, and if they pass, then if you want the body back, they would probably have to embalm you because of the plane, and so that would be the airline's rules, but you might have to be cremated wherever you died in France, and then your ashes come back. As far as state by state, they do have their rules. You can't bring an unembalmed body across certain state lines.
Right. That's what I had read that somewhere. So Yeah.
A couple of years ago, we buried a woman who had met, she was single and she met the love of her life in the it's at San Antonio airport. And they were both older and it was like love at first sight. Seriously.
Sweet.
And she went to Arizona to be with him from San Antonio. So, and when she got to Arizona, they had a really sweet life together. And then she got cancer and she died. But she wanted to be buried in at our place, a natural burial. She knew where she wanted to be. And so Genaro brought her back. I don't remember exactly how he brought her back, but he brought her back. They had a beautiful burial. And the stones that I chose for her, because I have two stones. I've got the stone on top is carved and there's a pedestal stone. So I had one stone from Texas that was native in Texas and the other one from Arizona.
Oh, that's very thoughtful.
Yeah. Well, my daughter is, we're a musical family. This isn't my first rodeo in life. I mean, this is like, one of the things that I've done most of my life is professional music as a singer. And I had a major recording studio in San Antonio and I raised my daughter in that studio. And her name is Christabel. And she travels all over the world as a singer.
Oh,
so we've got music in our family and we've got unicorns, as you see.
Oh, yeah, I see that. So, for the listeners.
Cooking with all of that good stuff.
For the listeners, she has got a unicorn in the background. So when we have our video up on YouTube, you should be able to tune in and check out the background. It's really pretty. What does the process of a natural burial look like at Countryside Memorial Park? And then how soon after death does a burial typically take place?
Okay. So that's a two-part question. So I'm just going to give you a little scenario.
Okay.
So Genaro or, some person that is an expert in natural burial, because you don't want a beginner. If you're going to work with, natural burial, you want someone that really is comfortable and experienced in what they're doing. So there's a death. And Genaro and I we're already joined up on this. Like the family's already spoken with me and they've spoken with him. So when a death is coming, people usually know. Sometimes it's a surprise. But so they will call either me or Genaro, and we will counsel them. I'll say, okay, call Genaro. And Genaro will say, well, when would you like for me to come pick her up? If death is not an emergency, like people, let's say a death happens at home. There's so many different scenarios. Let's say a death has happened at home and it was expected. So, and the family's there while the person's passing. So Genaro would say, would you like for me to wait a few hours so you can be with your loved one and say goodbye? So that you can just, stroke their hair and, just touch their face and put your hand on their chest and tell them how much you love them and how precious they are to you. And so Genaro gives them that option, and he'll actually paint that picture for them that they can actually do that. Because, as I said, death is not an emergency. In our culture, you have a death, someone says, oh my God, we've got to call the funeral home right away. No. Our work is for a death, it's called the good death. So a person has a good death when their loved ones can say goodbye and everything can be calm and beautiful. So when the time has come and, the family says, yes, can you come at like 8:00 tomorrow morning? Yes, I can. So Genaro comes and he has this mortuary coach. It's this beautiful black Suburban, and he just keeps it shining. And so he brings his mortuary cot and he goes into the home, and the family they've already said goodbye. They've already been with their loved one. They 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 don't feel like they need to like have a viewing of an embalmed body that doesn't even look like the person anymore. So I mean, they've already in the best case scenario, they've all been there, and Naro show up and just gently. I mean, I've had him show up for my family members that have died. One of them was small, and he lifted her up like she was a baby, so tenderly and gently, and just placed him on the gurney. I mean, with the greatest of care.
Well,
Now, when my mother died, she died on a rainy night, on a stormy night, and she had already pre-arranged her business, and she was going to be cremated. But I'm glad she did all that, because, we didn't really know about Hinaro or much about natural burial when she died. So when she died, I immediately called the funeral home, and I said, she's come and she's died. And they said, well, we'll be right there. It's storming, but we're going to be right there. And they showed up, these 3 darling young men, all in black. They were all in their funeral attire. And they got in my mama's room, and they closed the door behind them, and they moved her from her bed onto their gurney. And, they covered her with a sheet, and out she went in the rainy night. And it's like, there goes my mom. I wanted to spend a little bit more. I didn't know that I could spend more time. It's essential that we spend more time with our loved ones. I mean, maybe not for everyone. They don't all feel like that, but it's really essential. So I got off on a tangent. It's like, what is natural burial? So Hinaro takes them into his care. I mean, I will call him. Do you have, Mrs. Sherman? And he'll say, yes, I have her. His term is, she's in my care. She's in my care.
That's sweet.
So he takes her to his funeral home that you've been to, Compression Funeral Home. It's a small place. It's owned by him, and he literally built it with his own 2 hands.
Right.
I mean, he had help, and you saw it. It's a beautiful little place.
Exactly.
But he takes them, and he has all the things that the funeral, the funeral commission makes him have. Like, he's got a prep room, even though he doesn't do embalming. He has to have an embalming machine, but he's got a refrigeration room, and he puts them in the refrigeration room. And so he's got them in his care. And then the family and he and I get on the phone together the next day or the day after, and we begin to have conversations about what the funeral will be. It's like we find out from Hinaro if he's available for, and we find out if the family's available and the people that are coming in from town are available. I mean, we can wait for 2 weeks for a funeral, because refrigeration, I mean, the person just needs to be refrigerated. If it's a home funeral, this is a different thing. I mean, we're talking about a lot of different things. If you're having a home funeral, like Hinaro mentioned, you can use dry ice on the belly. I mean, you can have a person lay in honor for 3 days. I mean, I've seen that. I've experienced it myself, where so the people adorn their loved ones, and they wash their loved ones. They put flowers around them, and and then they have people that just come in. Not everybody wants to have their hands on the person that's deceased, but people love coming in when they're in their own environment, with candles and soft music, and just, you can have that. when someone has a viewing at a funeral home, it's a completely different animal. This is not that. This is the most beautiful natural environment. So the person can be refrigerated for up to 2 weeks because people have to fly in for funerals, and people don't know exactly when someone's going to die. Family members might know when someone might die, but they're always in their lives. So people have to come together and have to plan things. So when a death occurs and a funeral is being planned, we have to have some essentials. We've got to have Hinaro's availability. He's busy. And we've got to have my availability, the cemetery's availability. But the other component is the grave diggers. It's really, that's the term, really, that's what, but we call it cemetery services. What those guys do, people think that grave digging, oh, that's such a weird job. No, those guys are the backbone of burial in any cemetery because they open the graves. Now, in most cemeteries, it's 6 feet under, right? Okay. 6 feet under. And the reason that they do that is God knows why, but they do. And if someone is like buried like two or three people on top, you know what I'm saying? Like Hill Canyon burials, like one person is low, they've got a vault, and then the next person is buried on top of them and they've got a vault. So that's like 6 feet under. 6 feet under is, there are no living components under there. All the soil, everything is dead. But we bury at 3 feet. The law is 2 feet from the nose, right? But we bury 3 feet, and then there's a mound on top of that. When you come to anyone coming to my cemetery or a natural burial cemetery, they'll see mounds. Those mounds eventually dissipate. The reason that there are mounds is when the graves are open, that's also another term for dug. So when a grave is opened, they are moving soil that's been there for thousands of years and it's compacted, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're moving soil, you're actually introducing air to everything, including the soil. So when you bury a body and you put the dirt on top of it, you have the body displaces, the soil, but then the mound on top of it is the soil that was removed. So, but eventually all that soil dissipates. So where was I going with that? Okay. So you need the people to open and close the grave. So that's the other component. Are they available? So cemetery's got to be available. The Hinaro needs to be available and the cemetery services have to be available. Mm-hmm. So, well, those are the essentials. And then the family, I mean, we've got to coordinate with everything. And then I guide them through what they want. They say, well, can we have Uncle Joe sing? Yeah. Or they might say, well, we don't have anybody to sing. Can you sing? I'll go, sure. So I don't charge for that. I mean, I've, made a lot of money singing in my life, but this is a whole other aspect of my life now. I don't do it or anybody, we just make it happen for people. And so Hinaro brings a loved one and the family and with Hinaro's help, I mean, they can remove the loved one from the funeral coach because all of this is ritual. It is human need to bury our loved one. Mm-hmm. It's not, this is a cute thing to do. This is like fun or what, no. It's a human need to really bury our loved ones because if it's been done conventionally, you don't get that need fulfilled because somebody else is doing it. You're not doing it. You're not doing it. So people can take their loved one from the coach, and they can put their loved one, as you saw, on top of the slats. I mean, I'm not sure which burial you saw, but there's a lot of different ways that we do it. People can go to my site, to the gallery, and see different types of burials. So, yeah. So families are totally involved. And at the end, we have golden shovels. So they can actually put a few spadeful of earth, or they can, the most amazing thing happened a couple of months ago. An older gentleman died, and his wife and daughter, this was in the hot summertime, his wife and daughter filled up his entire grave. Wow. It's like, I couldn't believe that they did that. Oh, my dogs just came. So we might see some dogs here. Hi, Duncan. Okay. So, what's your dog's name? I have two. I have Duncan, who was a rescue, and he was found by Hinaro late one night. Somebody had just dumped him at 281 near the airport. So Hinaro just found him, and Hinaro was in his Suburban, and he just opened the door, and Duncan jumped in. And then there's Wally. And Wally's also a rescue from out of Austin, and I had a name my dog contest. Name this dog. And my daughter was really close with David Lynch, who's the film director. I mean, he's well known for so much, and she's done several records with him. Well, David Lynch joined the contest, and he said, his name is Wally. And I'm going, yes, that's his name. So we got Wally and Duncan. They're best of friends.
Oh, sweet.
And our name for our unicorn is Eunice.
Oh, Eunice.
That was my mother's name.
Oh,
yeah. And we have two miniature horses. And they're therapy ponies. Families want to meet them. And they want to pet them, and they want to groom them. And the ponies are going, yeah. Those ponies are magical.
Wow. What are their names?
Well, we've got Macaroni and Vanessa.
Oh, sweet.
They're adorable.
So families are allowed to, you have those there at Countryside?
Yes.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, if they want to, I'll halter them up and bring them out.
Oh, we've been talking about this, how you give them the opportunity to basically personalize the burial for their family. So can you tell me how about trees or plants? Like, are there specific ones that could be part of a burial at Countryside? And then, how long afterwards or during the service does that occur?
Okay. I'll answer that. People have heard, natural burial, and you can plant a tree on top of them. It's like, yeah, you can plant a tree if there are no other trees. And if you're willing to come water the tree 3 times a week for a year while it's being established. Most people aren't going to do that. So, and I don't allow that anymore. I had one person but we don't need any more trees. I have planted 20 live oaks on our 1.5 acres. Okay. And those are beautiful, and they are growing. And I've got 18 crepe myrtles on the inner peripheral. So we are going to be like a living forest with all the trees. And about a month ago, a family came to us. Their loved one had just died, and they didn't know anything about natural burial, but she said she wanted a natural burial. So, but she wanted a tree planted on her. And Hinara and I met them. We were counseling both of them. And we told the family, no, you can't plant a tree here. And here's why, because are you going to come every, 3 times a month or 3 times a week to water or however long it needed? Because trees die. I mean, there's a lot of heat going on out here.
Right.
And because they really wanted to keep to keep what they thought she wanted, they left. And it's like, I don't know where they buried her.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
I don't know where they buried her, but it couldn't have happened with us.
Right. And that makes sense. Like
trees. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't think about like that, you have to have water, right? To care for the plant.
Trees need a lot of care, and there's a thing called perpetual care in most conventional cemeteries. And what they do, is they charge the families a fee, to keep for cemetery upkeep, like fertilizing, mowing, all of that to have a lawn cemetery. We are not a lawn cemetery. We are a non-perpetual care cemetery. So we've got 1.5 acres and we keep it mowed, and we are going to have crazy wildflowers coming up right now. And well, there are already just in years past, you just wade through the wildflowers in the spring. Genaro and I, we planted 7.5 pounds of more wildflower seed.
Wow.
Well, I mean, this just December. So,
Okay.
I mean, and we watered them a lot. I mean, we're going to see, but we already have plenty of wildflowers. It's just like, how beautiful can we make this?
Right.
We have 1.5 acres. We have the capacity for 813 burials. At least that's what, I mean, we're all gridded out, by gridded, I say maps. We've got a big map. We've got sections, rows, and plots. So every burial and every pre-purchase plot has a number plot, it all has a location. We have currently, probably about 87 burials, something like that. Not all of them were done with Genaro. Some were done previous to him. With Genaro, we got like 55 natural burials. Genaro is with us for good. He's going to be with us forever. But so 87 burials, and then I've got 100 pre-purchase plots. That means that people come and they buy their plot, and they get to go out and pick out where they want to be buried, where they want their final resting place. And they start looking around. They're going, we don't know where to go. I'm going, look, just walk around and go into a meditation, be quiet. And when you stand on your spot, you will know it. That ground will speak with you. And you just, I'll be watching you, and when you give me the come on over, I'll bring my map over and I'll say, yes, that one's available. I can tell by looking at my map. People just always know where they want to be. And they also, when they're arranging a burial for a loved one, they say, we don't know where to put her. I say, just walk around. And they do. And because that person's going to be there longer than they've ever been alive in this body, so, we're deep proponents of, we believe in like vibration. We believe in, that the spirit of things. So yeah, and the same with the stones. When people come to my stone yard that's full of uncarved stones that I've collected, I pair them up, and I get stones that I think some people, who's going to want this stone? It's weird. It's pointed out this way, and every stone finds its own home. And people go, I want that stone. I'm going, that's amazing, because I thought nobody was ever going to pick it. But
Wow.
it turns out that that's their stone.
Wow.
And then they say, well, can you put an airplane on it?
Sure. How cute.
Or, whatever they want.
Oh,
But right now, I'm a graphic artist, but I know one of the most talented street artists in San Antonio, probably in Texas. And this guy's awesome.
wow.
So he will help me design, or I'll just hand it over. I'm saying, look, his name is Roland Alvarez. Look, Roland, would you just design this for me? And design this for the family. And so I act as an art director, and I just tell him, hey, this is what they want. And he'll just create this amazing thing, all hand lettering and hand drawn. And an artist, there's nothing like art. I can work with Photoshop, and I can work with font, that you can download, and I'm really good at it, because I just am. But living art, man, that's everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference. I know it, and it's not clip art. I can do it, but having a street artist at my fingertips, it's like, yeah.
Wow.
There
Well,
I go.
I'm gonna have to meet him. That sounds cool.
Yeah, he's having an art show pretty soon. You can see his art all over town.
Okay.
Optech Art is his real, or his company, OPTEK ART, Optech Art.
Okay. That sounds cool. Yeah, I'll look him up.
Yeah.
Cool. What are some of the most common or actually special requests?
I didn't do it particularly, but I set it up. A family wanted a dove release.
Oh,
and so I found a provider for that. And, 3 beautiful white doves.
wow.
Of course, they're not really doves. They're rock pigeons, but who cares? They're doves, right? They're like white doves. And he just explained about what the dove was. And there was a really religious family. It was the Trinity, this is, what the dove signifies, it's peace, that when the dove flew up, it was Christ, so the gentleman that had the doves, he explained all of that. And after he got done, when the family was ready, he put the doves in their hands, or in this cage, and handed them the cage, and they opened the cage, and the doves just all flew out. And they circled around this beautiful tent that we'd set up for them. And then they flew off, and where they fly back to is their own loft. They're trained doves. They go back home. But just watching the family, and everybody just look up at the doves and just wonder. It just totally moved them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to do. I'll just say it here and now. I want to raise some doves so that I can do that for families.
Wow.
So that I can offer. So another thing that we've done, people have wanted the cremated remains of their spouse buried with them. So we'll bury them, their bodies, and then the cremated remains will be in a sweet little biodegradable box, and we'll put it in their arms.
Wow. Well,
and then, they'll be buried with their loved ones in their arms.
And that's actually was going to be my next question, but what I was going to ask about our pets, because we've had 2 dogs that have passed, so we have their ashes. So I wanted to know, if we were buried there, could we have their ashes added with us? And you just,
of course, yeah,
answered that. So that's cool.
And a lot of people might say, well, can you put an urn in with? It's like, okay, we can, as long as it's biodegradable, or even better. Why not just remove the ashes and just sprinkle them? Sprinkle them over the top of the grave, or sprinkle them in with the person that's being buried. That's everything, because as far as people's urns, like, a lot of people die, right? And they get cremated, and the people keep their loved ones' ashes up on their mantle. And so soon they're, grandma, grandpa, uncle, aunt, mom, dad, sister, brother, and suddenly the last person standing dies. That has all those ashes on their mantelpiece. And then the friends go, Michael, we cremated him. We're going to bury him. But, what about all these other ashes? So yeah, people need to arrange for all the family ashes to be, and they can all be buried in this. I've got a cremated remains area. So their cremated remains can be buried and everybody that's buried must have a stone. But yeah, I've got an entire cremated remains area, and yeah, it's all got to be biodegradable urn. Or if someone's having a scattering, I've got a beautiful, St. Francis.
Well,
and people can adorn him, and it's in a natural tree grotto.
Mm.
Yeah. And he was a patron saint of animals.
Right. Yeah.
So when I first put the statue out there, a little group of skunk dug, cause we're in the country, right? So they dug, and I had an assistant. I saw that something had dug under St. Francis, and I said, please go out there and, see what's in there, and maybe toss a few stones in there and see if you can get him to come out, and then just fill up the hole. Mm-hmm. So she did, and she started tossing the stones, and then babies, skunks started running out, and then the mommy came out and the daddy came out, and they were all chasing her.
Oh no.
And, so St. Francis, patron saint of animals, right?
Right.
That's why they were there.
No.
I haven't seen those skunks there in a long time, but our dogs do get skunked occasionally.
Oh no.
See what happened.
Yeah. Well, since we were talking about pets, do you allow pets to be buried there?
Yes. We're opening up a pet section. I have two of my beloved pets there. I have Ping, a pug, and I don't know if you've ever known a pug, but they're more like children. They bred them for their faces to look like babies, so all your life you're holding your baby. So Ping, my beloved pug, and then little Stevie, she was a little rascal. And then I had two kitty cats, and they weren't mine, and two other dogs. And I'm really not open to the public for burial yet. I don't have a natural cemetery where I sell plots, but we will be having one soon. One of the plans that we have in the near future is Hinaro is going to be opening up right outside this our cemetery parameter of the 1.5 acres. Well, we're expanding because we own the 83 acres around. So as more and more people are wanting to be buried, and we sell more and more plots, pre-purchase plots, we're going to be expanding. We're going to have a pet cemetery.
Wow.
Yeah. But back to the funeral home that Hinaro will be building, where families where Hinaro can family can even bring their loved one, because families can actually transport their dead. Mm-hmm. People don't realize it. You have to have a permit to transport your dead. But yeah, you can do that. And I've had families do it. But so in the funeral home that Hinaro we're going to be building, it will be like a funeral parlor, or a different room that people can have their loved ones, and they can bathe their loved ones, and they can anoint them and pray and sing over them and put flowers all over them and have visitation there. And so they can do that in the afternoon, and then they can do that in the morning, and then in the afternoon, they bury them. They have their burial for them. So,
well, that's interesting that you said that, because actually when we were talking with Hinaro about the home funerals, and Santiago and I were talking about like, what would we want? And, you know, I actually did a little like answering that question on a separate video that I did. But in there, I was thinking, I even said it was like, well, because I was concerned, like if I were to die in my own home, you know, what would my family have a feeling about that? You know, would that make them very sad every time they came in the home? So then in my video, I said, well, I wonder, I think there has to be a place where I can go and, you know, when it's my time to die, I could be in that room at that place. And I was thinking like, what came to mind was Anna's personal care home she just opened. I was like, well, maybe I can ask Anna about that. But now I know that you guys are going to open one. So that
We
is
are going to open
great.
one. But also Anna will be giving home funerals. You know, I mean, Anna, and I don't know the name of her. I mean, she just opened up this beautiful home where it's going to be full care. I mean, she knows about natural burial now in that she and her doula group, I don't know if you know it or not, but we have mock burials, and we have the mock burial for everybody's favorite aunt, their dearly departed Aunt Lulabelle. And we have an entire burial service for Aunt Lulabelle, and the doulas, they get a taste of what a natural burial is like. Hinaro teaches them how to move the body from his coach onto the area where she's going to be buried. And we just, all this time that the doulas are involved in it, we are teaching them about natural burial. So more and more doulas who help people at the end of life, they help people and they help their families just prepare for death. And in the past, it's just been, okay, well, you get them up to the point of death, and then it's like, okay, they just do whatever they were going to do. But the doulas that know about natural burial, they can actually give the families an alternative, something they never thought of before.
Right.
And the burials that we've had, and the families, they have no idea what natural burial is. A lot of the burials happen because the person that died said, I want a natural burial. And the family goes, what? What? Natural burial?
Yeah.
One of the really cool things was that the matriarch was from Colombia, and she was 105 when she died.
Wow.
And she had said she wanted a natural burial, and the family's going, we have no idea what you're talking about. But what happened was they had her natural burial, and they all lowered her, and they had their priest there, and they had the most beautiful service. And that matriarch, she taught her entire family about natural burial. And they're all like, we all want this now.
Right. So actually, I did graduate in Anna's,
I know,
in the International Doula Life Movement, the end of life doula. And, but in December, the weather was bad. So,
I know.
we had said next time, like we could join the next group on their graduation. So
yeah, y'all are coming. Yeah, I think we're already booked. And if people call me and say, I heard about Aunt Lulabelle, can we come too? And you know, when the next time the doulas are there at their graduation. So I say yes.
Awesome.
And I invite everybody to come because they can just watch.
Yeah.
I mean, I have the doulas actually be the mourners, you know, the friends and family of Aunt Lulabelle. And, you know, some people sing Amazing Grace. You know, some people will actually sing and they'll do the gongs and they'll do the prayers and, you know, just the whole bit just to make it real. And Aunt Lulabelle, I mean, we've got her wrapped in this beautiful quilt. Hinaro shrouded her, you know. And so, I mean, people say, well, I want to know about shrouds. I want to know about burial containers. I want to know about the carriers, you know, those beautiful wicker carriers, or maybe the seagrass caskets or the bamboo caskets or the shroud. And I say, look, if you don't want any of that, you are more than welcome to, and I'll guide you through this. you're more than welcome to bury your loved one in their favorite quilt, their favorite family quilt.
Wow.
And I say, look, here you can absolutely do that. Here's what we're going to ask is that you get absorbent batting, because practicality is bodies leak, bodies leak. And so I counsel them, bring the absorbent batting, bring the quilt. I tell them to bring ties, they can bring beautiful sashes. And so they bring all those items to me, or they take them to Compassion Funeral Home where their loved one is.
Mm-hmm.
But, so, and Hinara will cocoon them.
Mm-hmm.
He will cocoon them in their quilt.
Wow.
And it's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Family, they haven't had to buy a $8,000 freaking casket. I mean, send your kid to, camp or something. I don't know what kid goes for $8,000, but whatever, keep the money above ground for your family. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really beautiful.
Absolutely.
With everything that you just said, like minimizing cost, but I mean, it's not just minimizing costs. It is making the burial, making it so personal, right? So thoughtful, really. And nowadays, like I've seen this a lot where, people are having plate sales or they're starting a GoFundMe page because they need to raise a lot of money. And, I hope by us sharing and everything that you're sharing and what other people that we've interviewed have shared with us, like the home funeral, like these are things that I never knew existed. So I'm so honored to have you share your experience with us. And now I hope others can realize that they can really make it personal and not have to spend all the money. Like I always thought, like it's probably, when we went to the funeral at Countryside was the first time we ever knew that there was something different out there. I always thought it was always, the casket had to be embalmed, had to be in these clothes. Like I always thought that until recently. And so I hope other people are now aware and just now they can do their own research and become adjusted, like acclimated to the idea of something different, of something more personal and also environmentally friendly as well. So
the plate sales are really interesting because people, I mean, the funeral, do you want to know what we charge and for burial or for
Sure.
plot and that sort of thing?
Mm-hmm.
Because, okay, I've just had to upgrade our prices, unfortunately, because they were so low for so long. But the good news is they're still low. But the plots, the cemetery is different than like what Hinaro does. Hinaro, he does the funeral home part of it, and I do the burial part of it. So those are two separate things. Like I don't own any of his business, nor does he own mine. So we're two different things. So when someone comes to buy a plot, they can pre-purchase a plot way in advance, and they can, already they have the plot. And if they say purchase a single plot or a companion plot or whatever, and someone dies in there, and I put that plot in the person's name that they say, and then someone else in the family dies that they don't have a plot for, and suddenly they've got to, come. I would say, okay, if you want to, we can just transfer that plot over into that other person's name.
Mm-hmm. Well,
You see what I'm saying? So there's no plate sale,
right.
as far as I'm concerned. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like if they've already purchased the plot, like years before they have a sudden death and someone else in their family dies, it's like, oh, you can just give her your plot, and then pre-purchase the next plot,
Right.
or does that make sense? Now with Hinaro, what anybody would want to do if they're in their right mind is like prearrange their funeral with him, because they have a long time to pay it off. And no matter what, it's covered.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for what Hinaro's part of it would be.
Right. And then for you, do you offer payment plans then, or is it you have to?
No,
Okay.
I do not. I
Okay.
don't. Because I'm a one person show. I mean, my daughter, she's traveling all over the world singing, but I'm the mama that's holding down the fort, and so
What is?
I can't do all that bookkeeping,
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That's
If people say, well, I can't afford something right now. Can I make payments? I'll say, look, here's what I recommend. You open up a separate bank account and you just put $50 a month into that bank account. Just make it a little savings, call it my funeral plot bank account. And pretty soon they've got enough. They've got enough. They buy their plot. So I've got my prices here if you want me to like give you an inkling what they are.
Yeah. What is the estimate for like a single, but also for the companion or whatever's most people get?
Right. Well, we have different options. We have, burial. I'm just going to go down this menu. It's kind of like a menu that you might, I'll shake it like they do on YouTube. Okay. Cause we're on YouTube now. It is like a menu. It's like, a la carte. What do I want? Okay. So my first one is burial plots. Child 0 to 12 years, 450. A single plot is $16.25. And a single by a tree, where if you want to be buried by a tree, you go right back to the earth and you are feeding that tree with your body's nutrients. And once you are fully dissolved, that tree's roots are going to cradle you. You are a part of that tree. It's a part of you. Well, okay. So yeah, a single is $16.25. A single by a tree is $2,000.
Okay.
And a companion plot is $29.50. And that's for two. That's not $29.50 per person. That's for both.
Okay. They would die at separate times and it's still okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So, and a companion. I love that because people say, well, how is that? It's like, yeah, because you're really hearing this for the first time, and if you have that question, other people are having that question.
Right.
People say, well, I'm sorry to ask this question, but what if I'm going, you know what? You are not the only person on this whole freaking planet that has that question. I had that question before I had the answer. And the only reason I had the answer is I kind of made it up. It's all logistic. So yes, side by side, they're, companion. So companion is $29.50 and a companion by a tree is $33.25. So urn burial, and everybody that's buried must have, they must have a stone. And, so urn burials in the urn section, it's $5.25 and they're actually buried. There's no mausoleum. There's no niche. There's nothing. You go right back to the earth in your biodegradable urn or, sprinkle. And then they have to have, a stone. And if someone wants, if they want a burial plot for 2 urns, then they would buy a full-size plot. Like for a full-size burial plot, and they could put like 1 urn this year, and then the next urn in 25 years, the next person that dies and it gets to be in an urn in their family, they put them in the second, in the same plot, but the second area. It's 2 urns in 1 plot.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the price for that it's the same price as a full size plot. It's $16.25. So you bury 2 urns. So, and everybody has to have their own stone. The scattering, which I talked about before at St. Francis, people can have a beautiful ceremony, and it's $350.
Oh, wow.
And they can have, mariachis, they can have poets, they can have anything, they can have their priests, they can have anything they want. They can have a picnic. We have families that they bring a picnic every Sunday and have it around their mama's grave, just like they went to their mama's house every day of their lives while their mama was alive. And then their mama died, and they just continue the celebration with their mama every Sunday at her graveside.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what else do we have? Okay. So the natural stone markers, and they're all mandatory, and they start at $539. And the families are totally involved with it.
That's what you were talking about that you designed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Or, if they want this marvelous street artist, I'll make sure that I'll be the creative director on it. They'll tell me what they want, and I know how to voice with him so that I interface as a creative director, but the family gets just what they can only dream of it. And if they can voice it to me, that guy can make it happen. Either he can or I can.
So,
there's nothing like an artist.
those stones, they can be made ahead of time, right? Obviously they wouldn't have the ending date. Is that possible?
Right. Some people, they order their stones and they don't care about an ending date. Sometimes they don't even want a birth date.
Okay.
I have one, that's a doctor, and he's not going to die for a long time, but he designed his own stone, and I manifested it he drew it. I manifested it for him. And, he just has his name and, his saying and, birth or death date. And he's written his eulogy, and, I carved his stone, and he lives in McAllen. He's a well-known doctor in McAllen, and they came up and got his stone and they put it in their garden.
Oh, wow.
And golly, yeah. Now the thing is, with having me do people's stones, it's like the people that are already gone. I try to do their stones first. I have a lot of stones to do. I have a lot of stones to carve, and it's like, oh my God! And I may not be around to carve all these stones.
Oh, no.
Who knows? I just keep taking orders, It's like, okay, if you pre-purchase a plot, or if you have an immediate need, then you need to buy a stone, because the hardest thing to do is to have to chase down a family who's buried someone and never bought a stone. And I learned that I have to have a commitment to buy a stone, and I've got to have one sold to each family, because we can't have unmarked graves. And it's really hard to track a family down. If they don't have money for a stone, it's like, no, it's in your contract. You must have a stone. Because, people have to pay rent, or, they buried their loved one that cost more than they realized. But okay, so let me get through this. Okay, so the next thing is the cemetery services. And that's the opening and closing of the grave. Now, people can have it any way they want to. They can have a tent. They can have 12 chairs come with the tent. Or they can have like 40 chairs, or they can have they can have whatever they want. The cemetery service company, they can really supply all of that. If someone wants to bring their own tent and their own chairs, that's fine too. The thing that people cannot do is they can't dig their own graves.
Oh, okay.
Now, I allow people to open for the cremated remains plot, or if they bought a full size plot and they're just opening for, an urn. I'll allow them to, and I do the square for them, and I tell them exactly where to dig, and it's quite the ritual for them. I mean, it is part of their ritual, and they have I have golden shovels for them. And that is everything. And we say, filling up someone's grave is like, that's the last thing that you can ever do for them, that they can never feel like they have to repay. We always in our nature, we go, well, she brought me a present. I got to give her one, right? That's kind of a precedence but yeah.
Interesting.
Digging a grave, or filling a grave. That's the last thing. And I've seen families that have been like arguing and despaired because people have never heard about natural burial. So someone says, oh, well, she wanted a natural burial. Someone else says, oh, what the hell is that? No, no, we can't have that in our family. I mean, people get pretty crazy about it. Or no, she wanted cremation. I mean, and if people don't tell families what they want in writing, in their own handwriting, there might be argument.
Right.
Like, the advanced planning that you learned about, the advanced directives in your doula training. People need to actually say what they want.
Yes.
Witnesses or write it down.
Exactly.
Otherwise, there could, someone's idea of natural burial may not be someone else's idea of cremation. I know that doesn't really make sense, but I think you're following me. So yeah, so to basically open and close the grave, it's $650.
Okay.
That's to have the excavator come out, and those guys stay, and they stay during the burial. And if they need to help a family lower, or if we have a lowering device that they use, then they make it beautiful and part of the ceremony. It's not like, just uncranking them and then they go down and then it's like, okay, bye. It's like, no, I mean, it's a ceremony. And then the families, they come with their flowers that they've been holding against their hearts, and they just drop them into the graves. And then they start filling it up with their golden shovel. And children get really involved in the burials. And we have children. I tell the families, look, you are welcome to have bubbles. Bring bubbles for the children, because that's everything. And the children, they might get nervous or they don't know what to do in a burial, and but with bubbles, the children are inhaling.
Right.
They're exhaling bubbles. And so they're calm. The children are being calmed and they're being happy. And then they're just releasing all these bubbles that are just magical. And they're just like releasing them during the funeral. It's lovely. And the children, I have little bitty shovels, golden shovels for them. And they just fill in the graves. Everybody takes their turn.
Wow.
And if someone is older or infirm, or what we do and what Hinaro does is he fills up the shovel, with the soil, and hands it full to the grandma or whatever, and she just empties it, and then she hands it back to Hinaro, and he fills it up for the next elderly person. And so, I mean, everybody kids to do it, and we watch everyone.
Oh, that's really beautiful.
It's incredible.
Wow.
Such an honor to help people in this way. I never thought that I would be doing this, but this land was purchased by my daughter's daddy in 1965.
Uh-huh.
And
Wow.
he was much older than I was.
Okay.
And when I married him, I was 23. He was like 39. And that was a big disparity in age back then.
Mhm.
And he would bring me out to the farm, that, all these acres that he bought. And he said, honey, one day we're going to live here. And I was from San Antonio, big town, right? San Antonio. And I'd look around and I'd say, oh, hell no, honey. Yeah, we're going to live here. Hell, I live here. I love it. So my daughter inherited the property after he died in 2009. And we didn't really take it over as a cemetery. I mean, it was already an historic cemetery because there are 3 old graves on the cemetery, and they were, they went into, the historic cemetery registry, the Texas, and shortly after that, he incorporated an acre and a half around it. So my daughter and I kind of took over with her in 2017. We had some burials before that, but I didn't really move here until I started building in 2018. I built a duplex on the property. I don't live on the cemetery. I live on Cemetery Lane, which is, I'm the guardian of the property. Everybody drives past me on our lane to get to the cemetery. There are other families that live on the lane, but so yeah, I live right on the cemetery now, right on Cemetery Lane, and people pass me on the way. It's on a ranch. The cemetery is on a ranch. And a lot of people say, well, when I die, I want to be buried on my uncle's back 40. I want to be on the back 40 by God. And it's like, okay, that's fine. Here's the thing. You can be, but you have to understand that anybody that's buried on the property, it becomes like you have to give the public egress to your property. Anybody has to be able to get on your property because that might be one of their relatives. So by law, you have to allow them on your property. Now, you can have visiting hours. You can post that, and you can also have a gate that you close. But yeah, you have to give egress. So if you bury your loved one on the back 40, you can have people going right through your land, unless you're the guardian of it.
Wow.
So I say that, and I also say, look, if you bury someone on your land, guess what? Your family may have a hard time selling your property because not everybody wants any burials on their land. And they don't want any burials on their property, so a lot of people are going to say, I like the land, but I don't want any burials there. So they don't want any. So it encumbers a sale. So, and it also kind of, like, oh, well, this is our family land. It's like, not always. I mean, what is some family member, 2 generations from now says, look, I can't be connected to this. I don't want to be connected to this land anymore. I need to go to New York where I'm a stockbroker or something, or whatever. People don't always want to do what their family did. Anyway, I could go on about that, but if someone wants to be buried on their land, then they really need to figure out how to do it. Right. A lot of funeral homes won't do it. And a lot of cemetery, companies won't do it because, I mean, who's going to protect that? You'll have to be protected. I mean, it got to be, you just can't have a burial and then just leave. They want to be protected.
Right.
That's the way I see things.
Right. Yeah. I think what we were told, like in the doula class was, if they want to do something like that, of course they have to contact the proper authorities to figure that out. And then, like you said,
Yes.
do a lot of research.
Oh yeah, you've got to have a burial.
Wow.
Yeah, you've got to have all of that.
Yeah.
If you were burying on your own land, and if you did want to have a home funeral where you are actually bringing the loved or the deceased to Countryside Memorial Park and not involving a funeral home or Hinora's funeral home at all, you can do that. But the thing is, you have to have a death certificate,
Mhm.
and we got to have a report of death. Like a death certificate, it takes some days to get, right?
Mhm.
But a burial pretty much needs to happen right away, or in a reasonable time. And so if you're refrigerating the loved one, right? If you're keeping them at home during a home funeral, but you can't file the death certificate and you can't do the report of death because all that is a legal thing that a funeral home does or a funeral director does. So that's what you would need to hire like Hinaro to do.
Hmm.
But yeah, you can do the whole kit and caboodle yourself. And I would totally agree with that because I've done it before, but a death certificate has to be filed by someone that knows how to do it. It used to be that you could file it yourself at the vital statistics, but you can't do that anymore. It has to be done electronically. And yeah, it's got to be signed off and all of that. And a report of death has to be produced before I can do an internment.
So I was curious, it's like it's kind of a 2-part question, I guess, but I know I've heard you say bits and pieces as we've talked about things that are maybe not allowed, right? At a natural burial so if you can tell me if there's, I don't know, any other things that might not be allowed, but in addition to that, what I was going to say is, like, for example, my husband had cancer. And so he went through chemo and radiation. So when someone goes through that and has those chemicals in their body when they were at one point in time, does that matter? Like, can they still have a natural burial?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Are there any other things that are not allowed?
Well, people might say, well, my Uncle Joe had a titanium hip. Can we?
Oh.
Yes, because that was part of him,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll go back to Earth, but that hip's going to be there, maybe it'll get dug up in 1,000 years. And it's like, oh, that's Uncle Joe. Who knows, but yeah, titanium is, all of that is allowed. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, when someone is cremated, as you probably know, they got it. If someone has a pacemaker, number one, this is really cute, not cute, but anyway, people don't think about this. But when someone has a pacemaker and they die, guess what keeps on ticking? Pacemaker. Yeah. So, that's got to be turned off. And usually that's done by the medical staff. I don't know. I've never been there at the time. But when that pacemaker gets to the funeral home and then they're going to cremate, which Hinaro helps people with cremation as well. But they remove that pacemaker because if they put the pacemaker into the retort, it can explode.
Oh, wow.
And who wants that?
No, that's terrible. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know? I feel like I've read this somewhere. I'm not sure. But for a pacemaker, then could it be maybe donated to maybe like vet center?
Yes.
So go to pets. Like,
I don't know.
Like a veterinary center. I don't know.
You've heard about that.
Okay.
You've heard about that. And that's something for Hinaro to know. Or for you to ask him.
Okay.
Yeah, those pacemakers, I mean, who knows? Maybe they could be given. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's cool.
But I know, like when my stepmother died, she had hearing aids on her body. She died unattended, and an unattended death is different. There's all different kinds of deaths, right?
Okay.
So, but she died unattended with her hearing aid in. And so they were removed as a part of her belongings, right? And so and Hinaro took care of her, and I gave him the hearing aid, and he disinfected them, and he gave them to some organization that actually distributes them to the people that need them.
Okay.
And they're never going to know that hearing aid was from a dead. But it's really cool because if someone donates their eyes or their organ, I mean, that's really cool. And yes, if someone has had an autopsy or if someone has had donations, yes, absolutely, they can have a natural burial. And we have that all the time.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, Hinaro, he knows how to work with all of that.
That's cool. So another thing about my husband is he's a veteran, so he's retired from the Army. And have you had maybe a veteran, like a military honors done at Countryside before?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Bum, ba-dum, bum, ba-dum. Yeah, the trumpets. Yes. We've had bagpipes.
Okay.
Anything that people want, they can have.
Nice.
Full honors. Yeah, because a lot of people say, well, I was in the Army all my life and Air Force or whatever. By golly, I don't belong to them. I don't have to be buried in their funeral. I mean, it's in their cemetery. A lot of people, that's what they want. Some people don't want that.
Yeah.
So they don't have to get it. A lot of people are buried in the military cemeteries because that's what they've always known they were going to be buried there, and that they never. So that's fine too, but some people don't want that.
I know that's, that's what we always wanted to be at Fort Sam, but until we found out about the natural burial, and then I called Fort Sam and I was like, "Do you offer natural burials?" And the person who answered was I think I might have said green burial, and he goes, "Can you hold on, please? I really don't know what you're talking about." And so then he came back. He's like, "No, we don't do that here.
We don't do that. Like it's disgusting, people.
And so, but Santiago and I actually we talked with someone at Fort Sam on their burial site. Not on the burial site, but we were at a some kind of meetup where there was a bunch of people. It was like a retirement thing. And he was telling me that it was actually in talks that they were going to be doing natural burials with some of the national cemeteries. So, and maybe I have it wrong. Maybe he said green. So
I know. Yeah.
Now that I realize what the difference is,
why you're confused. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that is why, now that I understand the difference.
I tell you what, I mean, they might have a whole, but here's the thing. They couldn't do a full natural burial because they're always going to have that vault on the top, because they're not going to have, everything looking like a perfect lawn and the perfect tombstones. And then suddenly you've got, you've got a mound and you've got like a natural stone and you've got, and you've got a vault where, the green fertilized grass grows. So it will never be a natural burial unless they open up natural burial cemeteries, which I hope they do.
Yeah, that would be awesome if they did. So if anyone is listening connected with national cemeteries, please consider natural burials for our military families who would like that.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
But the other thing I wanted to say about, you could both be buried at Fort Sam, but knowing what you know now, when you or he goes to visit one or the other, I mean, you would go to you would go to a national cemetery, and that might not, unless you really, really want that. I mean, you might want to see birds. You might want to see wildflowers. You might want to be planted where all of that exists. Or you might not. So people just have to figure that out. But whomever is left behind, they're the ones that are going to be visiting there for years in a sterile environment. But that might be fine.
So, Sunny, is there anything else that you would like to share and that you feel it's important for the listeners to know?
Well, yes. What I would say is I have got a brand new brochure, and I'll shake it like this. Well, it's all backwards, and it has here like all the different ways, or many of the different ways that people can be buried, and it gives a little bit about our story. But the really cool thing that I'm really proud about is it's a mailer. Awesome. So I'm kind of backwards here. Yeah, everybody's looking backwards anyway. So if anybody wants me to mail them one, I would love to do that. All they need to do is go to my website and get my phone number and text me their address, or email me. You can find it on the website. And in that, I will put in this brochure, I have designed our prices. These are Genaro's prices right here. So I've got Genaro's prices on one side. I know this is probably clumsy and confusing, but I've got my prices on this side. Okay. So it just gives you everything anyone wants to know. And if they want to visit the cemetery all by themselves, they can. I'm open every day between the hours of 9 to 5. And if they beat me there, just call me. I've got my phone number on the ranch gate. They can call me and I'll come open the ranch. I open the gate. I live right there. And so they can come on their own, or they can call me for an appointment, and I will give them a course in natural burial, just like we've done here. But it will be their questions, and they walk around, they go, oh, this is amazing. It's my joy to teach people and to introduce them.
Well, Sunny, that is super generous. And so I'll make sure to include that information in the show notes for everybody.
Yes. Our website is countrysidememorialpark.com. It's
great.
Simple.
Awesome. And I will also include that as well. So Sunny, thank you for joining me today and sharing your knowledge. This has been a great discussion. I've gotten lost in the discussion. It's so good. Again, I'll make sure to include the link to the website in the show notes, but would you like to share how our listeners can connect with you, maybe on social media or any other way?
Sure. Yeah. We've got a Facebook, and I think we've got Instagram. I have a dear friend who's very knowledgeable, Alex, and she's also a teacher of, she's a doula teacher, and she has a company called Pale Hearse, and she's out of Austin. Okay. But Alex, she often, helps me with my Instagram or whatever. I'm so busy, I don't do all that stuff. But Alex is like, I'll do it, Sunny, and she does.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Cool.
But anybody can call me anytime, as well as they can call Genaro anytime. So, and they can get their pre-arrangements with Genaro, and they can pre-purchase their plots with me. Some people want to meet with Genaro and me at the same time and just do the whole thing all at once.
Wow. Well, that's cool.
And he and I will come and talk to their church groups or their community groups. We will come and give a we'll give a talk anywhere people want us to be. And if they wanted us to, if they gathered enough people, and we don't charge for this, by the way, but if they gather enough people and they want to participate in a mock burial of everyone's dearly departed Aunt Lulabelle, then they can.
Oh,
They just ask us and we will do it if they've got enough people. Everybody needs to know about this. This is his mission and mine.
right. And when Anna has the next group of doulas graduate, I'll definitely share that with
They're coming.
the listeners. I'll put it on our socials too. So maybe people that are local can come and participate. Because I think it would be awesome.
Absolutely. We have another group of doulas that comes as well, and they're coming they're coming in March.
Oh,
so,
okay.
I mean, I said, look, this is not just for the doulas. This is for everybody.
That's
doulas, they're pretty amazing. Honey, thank you so much for having me.
Well,
You are just an angelic force on this planet.
Oh,
You are, my sister.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yes.
I'm surrounded by other very angelic people.
I know. Yes, we're all here on this mission together. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, before we wrap up, let's revisit the essential question for the audience. What is a natural or green burial, and how does it differ from a conventional burial? So I want to thank you for joining us. We hope today's episode has inspired you to consider a natural or green burial option for yourself, or to at least share it with your family or friends. Be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with someone who might find it helpful. Until next time, remember, every chapter you write today shapes your legacy tomorrow. Thank you for joining us at Thoughtful Planning.
Thank you.